All right, welcome for another episode of Talk to Tatiana. And today, Tatiana Sawyer, I'm talking to Ron Saharyan. Ron, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Tatiana. Great to be back. It's as we were talking offline, it's been about 3 years, right?
Yeah, since our last episode, we talked about profit first.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, I reached out to you because I was wondering, I'm looking to interview people who have done corporate for a long time and then got burnt out or something, whatever. It doesn't have to be burnout, but
Mhm.
started their own business. And so kind of tell us what you do now and we'll go from there, actually.
Sure. So I'm co-founder of Profit First Professionals, and we are a global organization, a membership organization of accounting firms, bookkeeping firms, and financial coaching firms.
And how do you transform the lives of business owners? What does that look like?
Yeah, so profit first, it's a pay yourself first methodology. It's a system. It's a system that allows, as you know, the business owner to pay themselves first, have money for Uncle Sam because they're going to be profitable. It is often the most neglected system that a business forgoes in any business that is out there. And so, what profit first does, the first thing it does is provide relief that there's actually a system and a plan. Then, once the plan is executed on, there's a sense of empowerment because you're in control of your money. You're paying yourself. You know how your expenses are being controlled. And the next thing is focus. Focus on growing your business because you have a system that is paying yourself, a system keeping your expenses in control, and you have true clarity on the ebbs and flows of your cash flow. So that's a huge transition from where many business owners are sitting today to having that type of clarity and confidence in a system that's going to be their cash flow system.
Awesome. And so, talk to us a little bit about how you've started. Like, what was your career path like, and go into as much detail as you'd like.
Yeah, sure. So, one of the things is I've had the pleasure of changing my channel several times over the years, and I never sought out to be a business owner. To be an entrepreneur, I should say. I've never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I still don't consider myself an entrepreneur. So I started off in high school as a welder, making industrial size ovens, washing conveyor systems. Did that through college as well. But that's where I learned I learned pay yourself first, the grandmother's envelope budgeting methodology. So I was always that guy that always had money coming back to school. And so after that, I took a job. I wanted to get into law enforcement. So I took a job at the Public Defender Service of Washington, D.C. as an investigator, investigating felony ones, murder, rapes, arsons. That was very interesting, learned a lot, but also realized that wasn't my cup of tea. Um, my buddy called me and he said, "Hey, Ron, you want to recruit?" I said, "Sure. What sport? What franchise?" He's like, "No, technical recruiting." So I'm like, "Technical recruiting? What the heck is that?" And so I ended up getting a job with a very large staffing company. Was one of the youngest directors at a particular time, and ended up remaining in the staffing industry for about 15 years, really specializing in margin, specializing in niche specialization within the staffing industry. And then, you know, I, my father, he was a little bit of an entrepreneur, and we lived the entrepreneurial struggle as children. I mean, I've had to eat welfare cheese, and I've seen things up and down. And so my father always conditioned me to get a government job, to get a corporate job, to work my 20 years and be done. And I didn't want to work for the government. I didn't necessarily want to work, a 20-year job. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I didn't want to be pigeon-toed into this big corporate machine either. But that's where the majority of the jobs were at that particular time. And, staffing was around, but it wasn't like it is today. And it was at its infancy. And I remember, accepting the job there and taking my parents out to eat for the first time with that paycheck. my father pulling me aside and telling me I made one of the biggest mistakes of my life by turning down a job for the Park Service and accepting a job at this staffing firm.
Wow.
Yeah, so that sucked. But nonetheless, it was the best thing I ever did. Then, as I was growing a staffing firm in Manhattan to its all time high in revenue, consultants on the street, and margin, I was told we were done scaling. And I'm like, you don't tell a guy like me that we're done scaling because that's all I want to do is grow, grow, grow businesses. And so that's when I put out my feelers. I was reading the tea leaves and I knew I had to get out. Right. I just sacrificed my, previous 4 years helping this, corporate organization, rebound and get going. And I wasn't happy, but I was making a lot of money. This was the camel that broke the straw's back. I knew there was more out there. I wanted more out there. I felt there was a void. I saw the relationship with my family distancing because of the hours. I was coming home angry. I knew there had to be more. And so again, I didn't say I want to start a business. I was looking for opportunity. And so I reached out to my network and Mike McAllowitz. He's a friend of mine. We grew up together. He's co-founder of Profit First Professionals, as well as a bunch of other businesses. Said, "Hey, Ron, I'd like you to read my manuscript and start a business with you." Mike had
Oh.
previously asked me to do that with him, and I turned him down over the past 15 years, saying no. This time, I'm 40 something years old, making, a couple 100,000. My wife's working, my daughter's 4 years old. And I said, you know what? I'm going to give it a chance, a change. I'm going to change the channel again. And I didn't know where it was going to go. I thought all business owners were rich because you all own companies. I didn't realize the entrepreneurial struggle. I had no effing clue, excuse my French, but I had no idea what owning a business was as opposed to running a business as a CEO with P&L responsibilities. That's a lot different than, owning your own business. And so the transformation that I had to go through under that was probably about a year transformation. But that's the journey. I mean, from working, as a welder in high school and college to an investigator in DC to large corporate staffing to, saying, you know what, enough's enough. I'm 40 something years old. Why not? I don't want to look back and say, I wish I tried it. I just decided to do it, just to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to jump. And I owe it to myself and my family to take that step because I don't want to say, I wish I would have had done that when I was 40 instead of doing it when I was 60. And so, one of the things that you asked me earlier was, is there something that I would have done sooner? And I would have started my business sooner had I known the the fun that it would be. Um, yeah, I would have started sooner. So that's my
And
story.
awesome. And so I want to kind of uh, dive a little deeper if you're up for it in terms of, you mentioned that you had tension in your family. And the reason I want to dive into that a little bit is because um, maybe some listeners have family, maybe they don't. Um, the idea is that I believe that really entrepreneurship is the best path, and it could be for anyone. And even if you're not becoming an entrepreneur, having an entrepreneurial mindset and the ownership mindset will help you in your career. And I see examples around me, in terms of friends and relatives and things like that, proving that. But at the same time, so many people, and it's definitely true for accountants because I've been on that path, and only because of my husband, who's very laid back and really knows what's the most important thing in life, which is family and your own health. I was on my path to being that corporate obsessed woman, career obsessed. My kids would have been raised by somebody else, which there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not in any way judging, but it just wasn't for me. But if somebody's listening, I would like for you to, how this um, anecdote, I guess. It's not really a story, it's more of an anecdote that a mailman, whatever, passes through a house, and there's an old lady sitting on a porch with the dog that's by her side on the floor on the porch, and the dog is making a little noise, like almost like a crying noise, a little bit.
Right.
And so the mailman asks what's wrong with the dog, and the woman says, "Well, it's lying on the nail." And so the postman says, "Well, why doesn't it get up?" And the woman says, "The pain is not hard enough, big enough, whatever, right? It's not painful enough." And so the idea is that, when we talk about things like, family and attention in the family and things like that, I don't think the pain is big enough to show that. And it doesn't only apply to family, it applies to other things too, like really neglecting your own health potentially and things like that. Can you give us a little bit more, I guess, specifics on what that looked like? So maybe if someone is listening and they think, "Oh my God, like I'm there," maybe that's their wake up call, to change something.
Yeah. So, it's funny. You mentioned having the owner mentality and being an entrepreneur. I separated those two in my life before this. I always had the owner mentality. I was always the best employee. I was always the guy getting the promotion. I was always the top guy. I looked at every organization that I joined as my own company because I knew the better I personally did for that organization, the more I would be rewarded. So, it was frustrating when things weren't necessarily being done in a vision that I may want done because I'm not the owner. But I've had that ownership mentality. But there was something that was holding me back. And I think it was the word entrepreneur. Because when we think of entrepreneur, or when I thought of entrepreneur, I'm thinking guys like Grant Cardone. I'm thinking guys like Jeff Bezos. I'm thinking, guys, that are Mike McAllowitz that are out there creating businesses and stuff like that. I'm like, no, that's not what I am. And so I share that with your audience because if you're listening to me and you do have that owner mentality, that is your key. That is your little light bulb that says, you know what? I am an entrepreneur. I can do this. You may not have the confidence to do it just yet, but you are already doing it. So if that helps, then you know what? You really should consider, the option of either starting your own business or partnering with somebody, right? I'm a partner kind of guy. I didn't do this on my own. Okay. And so there's a lot of different ways. But if you're feeling there's more out there, if you're feeling that you're undervalued, if you're feeling that, man, I think I can do things better, well, you probably can. And the starting a business today is a lot easier than it was 10 years ago. And 10 years ago was pretty darn easy. It's just, having a passion and realizing that I'm committed to this and that it's up to me to do this, and realizing that I've already done it for other people. I've already made several people wealthy by simply being me. Why not try to make myself wealthy? And that was why I wanted to start this business with Mike, but it isn't why I continue this business with Mike. I continue to do this because it's awesome. The freedom, the flexibility, the family first mentality. I mean, we are the anti corporate. I mean, and we've designed profit first to be the gold standard of what family first looks like. And so it was an opportunity for me to really make something because my wife's still in corporate. My friends are still in corporate and they hate it. And I hate it. And the toxicity in corporate is awful. And, it really will affect your mental health, which will then affect your relationships. well, then will affect, again, your bad relationships will negatively affect you. We live a one life, Tatiana, one life. Everything's family, friends, work, business. It's all one. And so you have the power and the opportunity to change that channel, to be more. Is it easy? No. But I know if I can do it, anybody can do it. And I really believe that because I'm nothing special.
Do you think, just to kind of piggybacking on this, do you think that people are born with an entrepreneur gene, or is it something that can be developed?
I think, everything can be developed if there's a passion and a want. And, I say something that is enjoy the suck, right? I mean, why are our kids, right? We have younger kids. Why are they good at TikTok? Right. And why do they stink at speaking a foreign language? Well, because they're constantly doing TikTok and they're not speaking Spanish regularly. Right. And so, if there is a passion that you have, okay. I know that sounds cliche, right? But I honestly, I don't have a passion for helping accountants per se. I have a passion for helping business owners grow. I have a passion for wanting people to help people make more money than they've ever made. I have a passion for helping people be successful in achieving. I happen to use accountants and bookkeepers as my vehicle, as my niche, to accomplish what I enjoy doing. And the results that they experience are second to none. And so it's, I don't think that some people might have the entrepreneurial gene. Some people might have the sales gene. I think it's based upon our experiences and saying, you know what, I'm going to try it. And if I fail, so what? Big deal. I'll try it again.
What do you think is the sort of a secret, I guess, is the word I'm looking for, um, to really enjoying entrepreneurship as opposed to just doing it because you want to be free and flexible and whatever?
Yeah. So the tip that I have that has served me well for since the beginning, and that is do what you say you're going to do by when you say you're going to do it. If I commit to being on this podcast, I'm showing up, I'm preparing, I'm ready to rock and roll. If I say to my employee, hey, I'll get back to you, with this report at 3 o'clock, I'm going to do it. Right? Not at 4 o'clock because I'm the boss and I got other things. No, you do what you say you're going to do and do it by when you say you're going to get it done. And here's the super, super insider access trip. Do it 3% better than expected. You do it a little better than expected. You will be a rock star employee, rock star boss, rock star husband, wife, kid, anything. And so that's not a tip, it's a fact. And so you don't want to be that new business owner that isn't doing what you say you're going to do. You want to do what you say you're going to do and do it. And when you do that, you will be successful.
Love it. I agree with that. I'm very much pro discipline. And I think that discipline is really more, self discipline is something that really separates a business and a business owner from,
It's an art. It's an
yeah,
art and it's very
absolutely.
hard to master. No doubt about it. And so, the self discipline, Tatiana, that you have is second to none, right? I've worked with you. I know that. Now, not everybody has that. And so, what we need then are communities or partners or friends that can be our accountability partner that can, say, hey, Ron, listen, you said you were going to do this. You didn't do it. I empower the company here, members, everybody to call me out. If I'm not doing my job, I'm not doing what I said I'm going to do, call me out. I need that too. Right. And so, this open door policy, it's not an open door policy. It's a discipline policy. It's helping each other stay disciplined in what we're trying to accomplish as the common goal. That's all it is. right?
Yeah.
And so, I use my wife, I use Mike, I use Billy Ann, I use other staff here. Hey, man, hold my feet to the fire. And so that's certainly going to help you get out of the gate, but also understand that just because you have an idea doesn't mean it's a good one, right? And so be open and seek constructive criticism. Be open to bending your mind to the criticism that you will receive. You don't have to like it, but you have to understand it. You don't have to necessarily act on it, but you have to understand it and appreciate it. You never know. And so, my father told me when I started Profit First Professionals, stupid. You're making a lot of money. You're walking away from it, blah, 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 blah. So you're going to have not only your friends, well, not only maybe your parents too, if they're still around, but telling you, no, you can't, don't do that. That's stupid. You'll have your friends. No, you can't do that. No, what are you crazy? Oh my God. You know how many entrepreneurs fail? There's so many negative influences out there. You got to push them aside. You got to push them aside and change your attitude to not ripping down buildings, but help building buildings. You can have the tallest building in the world two ways: build it yourself or rip down others. Let's
And
build them together.
I love it. Do you think that self awareness plays a role in on this journey and really the discipline, the accountability, and things like that?
I'm going to change the word from self awareness to ego. Ego can play a major part in the success of a business. Ego can play a major role in the success or failure of a startup. Um, I see a lot of famous people talking about having a singular passion and focus and driving through all sorts of, negative stuff to get to the results to where they are. And that has merit. That definitely has merit. Um, what I'm saying is, yeah, have your passion, have your focus, have your this, but be open to others, be open to yourself. Realize that this is your first rodeo, and while maybe you were successful doing it for others, there is a big change when you are the bank because you, as the owner, you are the bank. And so
Absolutely.
if your ego is in the way, and maybe there's some hotshot kid that's right coming out of college and they're telling you, hey, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, I don't need that chat GBT. I don't need that mind whatever thing that they're doing now. Well, maybe you need to change your attitude a little bit, let your ego down, and just be open to bending your mind and seeing how can this help my business.
Love it. And, you've mentioned this a couple of times during our interview, but if you're okay with it, I'd like to probe into it a little bit more. When I was listening to you sharing about what your dad would say to you, I felt angry at him for you. Angry, upset. As a parent, I think that it's maybe not the right thing to say to a child.
No, it's not. And don't get me wrong. I love my father. We have a better relationship, but he's got his way, and there's his way is the only way. And so sorry about that it makes me angry. But also, it's not only parents, but also there's teachers.
Right.
So my parents were the ones that encouraged me to do more, to be more, to always try to be better. The teachers I had were the ones that were saying, no, you can't do high honors. No, you shouldn't apply to this college. No, you shouldn't do this. No, you shouldn't, because I'm classified dyslexic and I was held back. And so I had to do a lot more to get to just that same level. But through all my life, people were always saying no. And that's the chip that I have on my shoulder. So you tell me, no, I
Wow.
can't do it, I'm going to prove you wrong. So,
Wow.
whether it's from, first grade to graduating to getting jobs where people are saying, no, 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 you can't do this. I've proven them wrong every step of the way. And I know you can, you have, and the audience members can too. It's just, it's getting rid of that nonsense, believing in yourself and giving it a try. What's the worst that can happen? Get a fucking job.
I totally agree with that, and thanks for sharing it. I think it's really important to remember not to listen necessarily, but I feel like a lot of us, and I've certainly been in that camp before. I haven't been in it for maybe 5 to 10 years, but I've certainly been in the camp of this person comes in, this authority comes in, and they say something, and you're like, oh, maybe I should be doing this or shouldn't be doing this. How would you, if you were to give one kind of piece of advice to somebody who's listening, who maybe is at a point where everybody else is telling them one thing, but they don't necessarily have that drive just yet to push back the negative, push back the naysayers? What would you say, what would you suggest they do to be able to believe in themselves? Because
I'll take it. Yeah, no, I gotcha. I'll take it back a little bit further. What one of the things that I've learned is to question. Okay, why do you feel as though this will not work? What is your tell me about your experience where you've done something similar that it worked and something similar that didn't work. Give me your experiences. Share with me a story that you've personally experienced. Just don't take a hypothesis, pull it out and say, hey, that ain't going to work. Right. That's what a lot of people are doing. Okay. So then when you question and get to understanding, you'll learn that they may have some unrecognized bias that they didn't go for it. They may not overtly be sharing that with you, but that may be something that's in them that is coming out that they just don't necessarily mean or intend to be doing. And so that's why I would always question, I'd always ask. And then the simple solution is you can test. You could test. And here's the beauty. It's your company. You can test it for a minute or you can test it for a year. Right. And so if something makes sense, we do this all the time at Profit First. We call them sprint tests, right? Because there's a lot of experts out of there, and we have a lot of chefs, throwing ingredients into this company, and so there's a lot of all right, that makes sense, but that also makes sense. Which is the right one? I don't know. Let's try both. Right. And so you try both. Okay. What's working? What isn't working? And that's what's also great about being your own business. You don't have to go through the red tape. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do that. You don't have to fill out these forms. If I want to say, you know what, I want a new website, I'm going to go get a new website. If I say, you know what, I'm going to lower my price, I'm going to lower my price. If I'm going to raise my price, I'm going to raise my price. If I want to give, it's you're in control is what it is. And yeah. So I know I was going on a tangent, but.
no, it's perfect. Absolutely perfect. Thanks so much, Ron. You know what? I really enjoyed what you've shared. I think that oftentimes what I've seen, and this is, connecting with people, networking, and just talking to people, I've seen that a lot of folks really don't pay enough attention. They go through this, and I call this, accountants do this all the time. I call it S&M. Accountants are miserable, but they kind of like it.
Yeah. Yeah. I have friends that they love drama. They'll tell you they hate it, but their life is nothing but full of drama. There's miserable people out there and they're sitting in their misery talking about how they hate it. But I agree with you. I think they like it.
Yeah. And so kind of, I hope that this episode, that this interview, us talking, will inspire somebody to maybe reassess where they are today and maybe change something. And that's really what my hope is, because I think that too many people get burned out and leave not too late. It's never too late to start a business, but kind of later than it could have been. Maybe after some bad decisions have been made, maybe relating to their health or their family or both or something else. But I think that it's important to remind ourselves that life is not just about work.
No, it's not. And thank you for sharing that, because work allows me to live the life that I want to live. And I don't even consider this work. It's what I do, and it's fun. And, it allows me to, you know, do what I choose to do. And so if your listeners, if they want to hit me up on social media and they want to have an email conversation, if they have any questions or anything like that, I'd be more than happy to, have a quick conversation and encourage and say, yeah, go for it. You can also start part-time. There's a lot,
Exactly.
just don't not start.
Exactly. That's
Right.
exactly what I wanted to hear. So you're speaking music to my ears. Ron, thanks so much for being a great guest again on my podcast. I'm excited to see people listen in, and maybe if they don't start something, at least there's an idea, a seed planted in their mind to actually explore something else.
And
Um,
thank you for having me. I mean, this platform, what you're doing, I mean, your books, your TED Talks coming on up, you're walking the talk as well. So thank you for allowing me to share my story. And thank you for encouraging people to start their own journey.
Absolutely. And how can people connect with you? Of course, I will post the links that you've submitted for your social media, but what's the best place for people to reach out and connect with you?
LinkedIn, LinkedIn, Facebook, primarily LinkedIn would be the best way. And then what we'll do is, if it turns out that we're going to have a meaningful conversation, we'll move it over to email, and then we'll go from there. But Facebook and LinkedIn are the best ways to check me out. I'm the only Ron Saharyan out there that I know of.
Good. All right. Thanks so much, Ron. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for being a great guest.
Thanks, Tatiana.
All right. And for everyone else, I hope to see you next week for another great episode of Talk to Tatiana.